I introduce to all of you Mrs. Heidi MacGregor.
All right. My working definition of student engagement goes something like this. Engagement is when students deeply internalize their learning experiences in a meaningful way that impacts their viewpoint and intrinsically motivates them to keep at it. It's not structured on compliance or going along without making waves or just being good. It's deeper than that. And as a teacher, I see my role as an influencer of student engagement, and I willingly accept the challenge and the responsibility that that entails. I've thought about this at length and started shifting my thoughts to my own engagement in the education process. We as educators spend a lot of time focusing on student engagement, but our own engagement is equally as important. How can we possibly bring it if we're not feeling it? I want to wake up in the morning and feel invested and passionate about the learning that's going to take place throughout the day. I want to feel like I'm making a difference and that what I do actually matters. I want to let my edu awesomeness flag fly. Maybe you do too. Now, don't get me wrong, there are many external factors that I can't control that affect my feelings of how engaged I am, both positive, like when the PTA comes by with the snack cart, or when an administrator pops in with encouraging words, and negative. Let's not go there. You all know what I'm talking about. But I can only control and influence what I can control and influence. By focusing on what's in my sphere of influence, I find that I can be more purposeful and intentional around my own engagement, which I believe in the long run will enhance the learning experiences of the students that I serve. I'm a big believer in the one-word movement. You know, when you choose an anchor word and it guides your decisions and intentions for a full year. This year, my word is authentic, which is partly why I'm standing here, sharing my truth with all of you. But last year, my word was connection. I wasn't sure where this would lead me, but I was inspired by the work of Brené Brown on this topic. And when I started building on this idea of connection and thinking back to past experiences, I started to recognize that the times when I felt more connected and was actually cultivating connections, I was more engaged with my own teaching. Now, don't get me wrong, ever since I started this profession about 14 years ago, being an educator has permeated my life. I walk my dog every morning and I lesson plan while I'm going down the road. I cannot go to Target without picking up something for my classroom or makerspace. I've even had trouble sleeping, thinking about students who might be struggling and how I could better help them out during the school day. But this idea of cultivating connections with joyful intention moved my concept of being an engaged educator to a whole new level. I'd even go so far as to say that the path to professional engagement is through cultivating connections like your hair is on fire. Now, in the interest of sharing my thoughts with you today, I've organized my ideas around connection into 4 realms: self, students, other educators, and the world. I have to start by sounding the trumpets on self-care. Without cultivating connections with my family and friends, I don't know how I could take on this all-consuming profession called teaching. I need my batteries charged and my chakras aligned. I'm not totally sure what chakras are, but you know what I'm talking about. I love my job even more when I know that my husband, my kids, my parents, my cousins, and my dog are with me on this journey. The next realm is my students. They are the cream in my coffee. The reason why I chose this profession. Building relationships with students has always been a priority, but so has growing their abilities as learners. As a classroom teacher, one of the things I struggled with the most was how to encourage students to read more at home, independently. Reading logs never really sat well with me, so over the years, I experimented with different activities to try to promote reading and basically hold students accountable. But the same thing always happened. The kids who loved to read did it in spite of my efforts, and the kids who didn't faked it. I had one failed attempt after another, partly upon reflection because I wasn't looking at this problem through the lens of connection. Let me explain. A few years ago, I noticed something really interesting, and that is that my students, fourth graders, were talking about their favorite YouTubers. And some kids even went so far as to say they wanted to be famous YouTubers. So by being curious and listening and connecting with them, I started to see the allure, even though I didn't totally get it. Slowly, I started to wake up to the potential. What if I could nurture this and use it as a way to inspire more authentic reading experiences? Now, I had used YouTube before to post videos and find videos to use in class, but it never occurred to me on my own to start an actual YouTube channel to promote the love of books and reading with the world. So together, as a connected community, my students and I made it happen by launching great book reviews. Months of getting to know each other through relationship and community building told me that I already had in my classroom passionate artists, musicians, performers, and readers. I used this knowledge to step back and invite the students to share their strengths and interests to make this project happen. One group of students designed a banner and a logo for our channel. Another group wrote an original jingle for the start of our show. And yet another musical group wrote a rap for when the credits rolled. By just tuning in to their interests, I was energized to make this experience happen. The contrast between my former methods of at-home reading strategies that were disconnected from student interests was stark. The version that valued and nurtured connection didn't fizzle out. Instead, it ended up lasting for the next 5 months that were left in the school year. And it even led to several spin-off projects that we created together, including 2 bilingual episodes that aired in Spain. Independent reading increased, and quite honestly, so did my love for teaching. It was like when Dorothy realized that she had the power in her ruby red slippers all along. The connections were always there. I just had to tune into them with purpose and intention to make way for a transformative learning experience. Now, looking beyond the students in my classroom, the next layer of connection is my talented colleagues who inspire me every day. I love walking down the halls of Russell Street and Shaker Lane schools and hearing the sounds of inspired teaching and learning. Or when a teacher mentions an idea for a STEM activity that together we use as a springboard to craft a new learning experience. Or when a group of teachers gets together to go for a hike or to see a movie after school. Connections Help us build something really great together. However, give me a thumbs up if this statement rings true to you. When I am teaching, I struggle to find time to connect with other teachers in my building and beyond for meaningful collaboration and idea sharing. So this is a great opportunity for me to make my pitch for why Twitter can help melt the walls away and give teachers more opportunities to connect. I can't tell you how inspiring it is when I see tweets from a Littleton High School teacher about strategies that they're using in their classroom. And sometimes I even catch a glimpse of a former student who I poured my heart and soul into. And when I see that he or she is still at it, I just want to double down on my efforts at the elementary schools now that I can picture where they're headed. Or when I see a tweet from a kindergarten class trying out a STEM challenge with gusto, I feel so inspired to create more. Twitter also allows me to get inspiration from other educators not in my district. A recent example that pops to mind is when I was trying to build my own competence around a computer programming language called Scratch. I started a group, we co-founded a group for Scratch meetups. And around that time, I happened to see a tweet from an educator in Waltham about a project that he did in Scratch with elementary school students. So on a whim, I messaged him to join our meetup group, and he did. His name is Zach. He showed me how to use conditionals in Scratch programming, which we are currently using in our 4th grade to do projects on how to code choose your own adventure stories. Each time one of our 4th graders masters this skill, I feel like it's a victory for me, the student, and Zach. Then I tag him in a tweet so he can celebrate success with me, which he does. These online interactions go a long way to keep me inspired and engaged in what I do, even on the days when I don't have the good fortune of collaborating face-to-face. This leads me to one more confession. Global connections rock my world. I figured this out about 6 years ago when I signed up for ePals, and I was partnered with Mr. Potter from Collingwood, Ontario. We decided to team up for a shared science experiment on stimulus and response. This led to videos, emails, and several collaborative writing projects. Not only were my students pumped to collaborate with a classroom from another country, I was equally as pumped. Being able to share an academic experience with the perspective of a skilled educator in another country brought me insights that I would never have had without that opportunity. Now, Mr. Potter has since retired, and over the years, I've reached out and found other global partners, and I plan to continue. Revisiting Brené Brown, she says that a connection is the energy that exists between two people when they feel seen, heard, and valued. When they can give and receive without judgment, and when they derive sustenance and strength from the relationship. I am a connected educator. I love my job. Connection is why we're here. I have big plans for more meaningful connections in my personal life, with students, with you, and with the world. But how about you? How will you use the power of connection to continue to light your teacher fire? Thank you.